Now, the next thing that I'm going to do then is I'm going to select this container that I just put in my orders, and I'm going to configure that to go to an order list page. I'm going to double click then on the container now that it's selected, and on click action, right now it's set to do nothing. I want to show a page, and it's a new page. We'll say new, and the name of the page is going to be order list, and we want this to be Atlas default. It seems like this goes to the last navigation layout that you use, so be super careful about this because this is part of the grading. We want our list screens to be kind of full width type pages, but when we add or view or edit, we want them to be those little pop-ups. Okay, we've got the page name, we've got the navigation layout. We're going to come and say it's going to be a list screen, so choose the type of page it is, and then choose the first template right here, just the plain list, and say okay. And okay. And now we'll go and we'll configure that order list page. I'm still over here in Page Explorer, so go to App Explorer. And there it is right there, order list. Let's go ahead and save since we haven't saved in a while. Save all. And order list. And again, we have just a very generic blank order type screen. So we need to configure this next. First thing that we'll do is we'll take this header, order list, okay, and the supporting list. You can say these are all of Anna's orders. And we'll say, okay. And again, we want to be consistent with how we're phrasing our titles and our subtitles. So let's see, what did we do on customer list? We had it very simple, right? Just customer list, a list of, and then we said what it was a list of. So let's go double check our order list. Order list, these are all, see, it should say a list of, right? What did we do on product list? Product list, a list of. So let's just, to get in good practice, let's be consistent. Where did my order list go to? There it is. A list of all of, that sounds kind of wordy, a list of Hannah's orders. Again, not super clever, but it does the trick. You can have something different. All right. And then on the list screen, the first thing that we have to do for the list portion is we have to tell Mendix where to go get our data from. So to do that, we're going to select that list view. You can either hover around until list view comes up. You can select something lower down, come to the, use your breadcrumb to get to the list view, or you can use your Page Explorer. So here we've got the list view selected, and we can see no data source. If you're having trouble configuring this to find your data, it's probably because you forgot this step. All right, let's go ahead and configure this part then. So the list view, the data source tab, and where are we going to get our data from? We're going to get it from the order entity. Notice these are not in the order that we added them, but more in alphabetical order. And select. And okay. Do you want to automatically fill? No, we do not, because when Mendix automatically fills it, it's kind of ugly. So we want to customize this. So we've got this. Let's go ahead and then customize what we list here. Okay, so we need to think about what kind of data we want out here on each line. And when you're designing a list screen, you want to have sufficient data so a user using the system can tell one order from the next order. And so that you might say we want sufficient information so you don't necessarily have to go and view the detail. You can see enough information from the list screen itself. So at a minimum, I think what we need to put in here is the order number. We need to have the customer name, and we have to have the product that was ordered. You can add additional things if you want there, but I think that's kind of the minimum. So let's go ahead and get that started. I'm going to start with my order number because that's kind of my primary key or my unique identifier for each of these rows. And if you remember how we configure these list items, we come in here to edit it. And that order number is going to be different on every row, right? It's going to be one of our parameters that as the database gets read, each row gets thrown out to the order list screen and we get it formatted. So let's go add the order number. Click New, Attribute. It's going to be the order number. We're going to say Select, and we're going to say OK. And then we have, remember, our little curly brackets. Now, just a number just out there isn't totally user-friendly. Again, it's a balance between being user-friendly, between users who may not be used to using your app versus people who use the app all the time and they don't necessarily need all the hints and tips. This is something Hannah says that she has a fair amount of turnover in her employees. And so to be as user-friendly as possible is good. So we're going to label this. We're going to put order number, and that's static text, right? That's going to show up on every line. I'm going to put a colon, and then I'm going to put a space, couple of spaces, and then I'm going to put my parameter. I'm going to put that curly bracket 1, and that's where my order number will then show up. And I can say, okay. And okay. And you can see this is what it's going to look like online. And actually, I kind of like that. I think that looks good. The next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add the customer name. So down here in customer name, I'm going to edit that. And right down here in the secondary text, I'm going to say new. And my attribute path, I'm going to select. And you'll notice, maybe you noticed it when we added the order number. But you'll notice here that, look at this, I have access to my relationships. Remember how we didn't have to add any customer information to my order entity. We didn't have to add any product information or attributes to my order entity. We simply had to define a relationship. And with that relationship, again, it's that low code. Mendix knows to add those foreign keys into the order entity so the database could reach through those foreign keys and access data in the customer table. So we're going to expand customer out, and I'm going to have first name, and we'll select, and we'll say okay. And I might want the last name as well. So we'll say new, select the customer, we'll put the last name, select, say okay. Now the other thing that I want on, or we can go ahead, let's go ahead and set this up, and then we're gonna add to this, because remember we wanted the product name, and probably we want like maybe the order date and the pickup date. So let's take out, we don't want the word secondary text, that's useless, right? But we want curly bracket 1 for the first name, and then we'll put a space, curly bracket 2 for the last name. So that's going to display our customer's name on that second line. So let's say new, let's get that product name available. Select an attribute. And again, because we have that relationship, we can now come down and get data out of the product table. If this customer and this order or this product information is not showing up, go back and double check your database. Make sure your relationships are pointed in the right direction. And we'll say, okay, and we wanted the order date. And notice here with the date, we can show the date, we can show the time, we can show the date and time, or we can do something custom. I think just the date is perfect. And new, we're going to have the pickup date. Pickup date, select, and okay. Okay, so now that we've defined all of our parameters, we've got our first line set up to be the customer name. I'm going to come just to the end of this, and I'm going to hit my enter button. The second line, I'm going to have the product name, and it looks like that is curly bracket 3 is that parameter. Curly bracket 3. And then on my next line, I'm going to put the order date and then the pickup date. And I'm actually going to label these. Otherwise, it's kind of tricky to tell which date is which. So order, date, colon, space, curly bracket 4. Maybe I put a little, I don't know if I want to put a slash to separate them. I don't know. We'll have to see. It might just be too busy with the dates and the slashes and everything else. Maybe let's try a dash dash, something like that. Pickup date, colon, curly bracket. My pickup date is curly bracket 5. 5 is the name of that parameter. Okay, let's go see how this is going to look. And okay. All right, that's not too bad. Let me click out of here so we can kind of see. We'll have to see it with some real data, see if it looks too busy or if we like the way it looks. We'll show it to Hannah and see what she thinks. Let's go ahead and file and save all. All right, we did quite a bit in that video there. So let's, I'm going to stop the video, and then the next video, we'll go ahead and create that order new edit screen where we can add an order and we can view orders and we can update orders.